Nature Calls. Emma Thompson stars as an unconventional artist named Carrington. And Annette Bening captivates Michael Douglas, who just happens to be the American president.
The White House is the single greatest home court advantage in the modern world.
I learned that one the hard way.
Michael Douglas is the President of the United States and a widower, and Annette Bening is the Washington lobbyist who catches his eye and his heart in the American president. It's one of 5 new movies we'll review this week, including Jim Carrey in the new Ace Ventura adventure and Emma Thompson as an unconventional British artist. And we'll take a look at a surprising scene that was clipped out of the cult movie Clerks. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Our first film is The American President, and it's a flat-out winner. One of the year's best, a terrific old-fashioned entertainment with a thoroughly contemporary screenplay by Aaron Sorkin, who can write dialogue with the very best, and I just have to credit him first. What a writing job. The American President is a glorious romance set in the White House as the widowed President of the United States, convincingly played by Michael Douglas, takes a liking to a feisty environmental lobbyist played in a dazzling performance by Annette Bening. She's just questioned his commitment to the environment, and he's invited her into his office for a chat.
Mr. President, what you saw in there was nothing more than vanity run amok. I was showing off for a colleague who doesn't think very much of me. It would be a real injustice for you to hold the GDC accountable for my behavior today, on top of which I am monumentally sorry for having insulted you like that.
Are you under the impression I'm mad at you?
Another solid character in this wonderful story, the Chief of Staff and the President's best friend from college, well played by Martin Sheen.
What would happen if I called Sidney Wade and asked her to be my date at the state dinner on Thursday evening?
You're not serious.
Don't I sound serious?
The president can't just go out on a date.
Totally infatuated with her, and Bening makes you see why. He calls her up for a date, the first one he'll have in his 3 years in office.
Oh, that's it. That's why I was calling. Sidney? Sidney, Congress doesn't take this long.
Mr. President, you have asked me to join you in representing our country. I'm honored. I'm equal to the task. I won't let you down, sir.
Sidney, this is just dinner. We're not going to be doing espionage or anything.
And then there is the first date. Again, smart writing, and Annette Bening is absolutely luminous.
Do I date a lot?
Yeah.
No, how about you?
Me? Well, lately I seem to be going out on a lot of first dates.
Well, then you're experienced at this.
Oh, yeah, you can ask me anything.
Well, how are we doing so far?
It's hard to say at this point. So far, it's just your typical first date stuff.
Damn, and I want to be different from the other guys.
The American president is very smart and quite credible about politics as the president finds himself suddenly under attack from the Republican senator running against him, played by Richard Dreyfuss.
Networks and newspapers like ratings and circulation, or all the bitching we do about liberal bias in the press when it comes to a good character debate.
The press is an unwitting accomplice.
Director Rob Reiner deserves a lot of credit because at a time when we're all very smart video-wise about the White House and press briefings, everybody watching CNN and C-SPAN, he has created a film that feels real and never glitches. And Michael Douglas is at the top of his contemporary man form. All in all, The American President is a glorious, old-fashioned, yet sparkling new entertainment. I can't recommend it any higher.
I thought it was terrific. When I wasn't laughing, I was smiling.
Right.
And then there were the heart-tugging moments. It's very hard to make a good love story. It's really hard to make a good comedy.
Right.
It's really hard to make an intelligent movie, and it's almost impossible these days to make a good political picture. And
Right.
Rob Reiner has done all 4.
Yeah.
This is a terrific movie.
Well,
really
you know,
is.
the other picture, I mean, people thrilled to Apollo 13 and said, you know, this is the kind of entertainment that Hollywood can make best. Well, this is the other kind, too.
Yeah.
And we haven't had one quite like this in an awfully long time. I kept saying how great Annette Bening looks. And I don't mean it just as a comment on her physical beauty.
No.
This is coming out of her soul.
Yeah, it's personality.
It is.
And that's why the president is attracted to her. Yeah.
She is really something in this film.
You know, Rob Reiner's last movie was North, and that was...
Our selection of the worst of the year.
I said, I hated it, I hated it, I hated it. It's nice that Reiner's next film, I can say, I loved it. Okay, next movie. And our next movie is Kicking and Screaming by a talented 25-year-old writer-director named Noah Baumbach. The movie examines in close and loving detail a group of campus friends who are getting too old to stay in college and don't know what else to do. There's not much of a story in the film. Instead, it wants to be a slice of life, a record of friends who are clinging uneasily to the small talk and camaraderie of the campus. The movie stars Josh Hamilton as a recent graduate from the English department and Olivia Dabo as his girlfriend who is leaving for a year in Europe.
I told you I was quitting. You didn't pay any attention. You're a foul-weather friend, Grover. You're not interested in me unless I'm suffering like you. You're like a child sometimes.
Yeah, but if I was a child, you'd find that endearing.
Another member of the crowd, played by Chris Eichman, has started dating a local teenager, played by Cara Buono.
I like birthdays. I'm gonna be 17 tomorrow, and I like that.
17. Wow. So now you can read 17 magazine and finally get all the references.
This is a key scene in which a separation at an airport provides a reminder that soon they will all be forced to go their separate ways.
This is useless. We just have to walk away like mothers in nursery school.
I saw this movie just a week or so after I'd spent some time at my own alma mater, the University of Illinois, for 4 days. And walking through campus town and drinking coffee in the student union, I found myself looking around for the ghosts of my old friends. Somehow I thought they ought to all still be here, hanging out, waiting for me to rejoin the conversation. And that is exactly the feeling that Kicking and Screaming captures. The undergraduate years are a wonderful time when you make new friends and try out new ideas, but sooner or later, those years have to end. By positioning this movie just at the moment when his characters are arriving uneasily at that idea, Noah Baumbach has made a perfect little work of social observation.
I liked it too, and I think you're right. That there is something, there is a tension here that's not apparent, but you gradually realize that everybody is sputtering. They know they've got to move on, and we hit that point many times in our lives. This one is clearly marked for everyone after college, but so that's the tension, and will they get off the dime as they must? It's a good observation.
I mentioned that the movie doesn't have a storyline, and it can't have a storyline because the storyline would indicate a motivation and a direction, and the whole point is they don't know what the end of the story is because they don't know what they're going to do. So that lack of a storyline creates the tension.
It's a good picture. Coming up next, he's one of the hottest stars around. Jim Carrey stars in Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls.
Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. How are you this afternoon? All righty then.
This white devil thing has gone far enough. Nobody messes with the dude!
All righty then, that's Jim Carrey as Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, on assignment in Africa for the sequel to one of the most surprising smash hits of recent years, Carrey playing a deliberately offensive goof. Well, I started enjoying his humor in pictures like The Mask and Dumb and Dumber, which came later. I hated the first Ace Ventura film, and his new one, Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls, is only twice as good. And you know what 2 times 0 adds up to? Ace has been asked to come to Africa to help locate a missing sacred bat.
Bat? What bat?
The one we're here to find, Mr. Ventura.
You didn't say anything about a bat.
What's the difference?
What's the difference? Have you ever seen a bat? They're hideous. Lifeless, beady eyes, clawed feet, huge, grotesque wings.
And here's a tired old scene as Ace, now with the tribe, eats something he doesn't recognize.
This fruit paste is delicious. And the pottery is lovely.
It's made from guano.
Guano! That sounds so familiar.
Bat droppings.
More dismal humor, Ace talking with his pet monkey.
And my instincts tell me we're getting closer. I can feel it. I can feel it like it's right in my neck. Run!
Why doesn't this Ace Ventura work? At least for me, it's not for the lack of Jim Carrey trying, but he doesn't have a single compelling person or animal to respond to in When Nature Calls. Not one. The tribal characters are cartoon oafs. The white men are stooges. Like everyone else in the movies, Jim Carrey works better with a real script and some worthy enemies. I laughed a couple of times at his silliness, but hardly enough to recommend Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls.
Well, I don't agree with you that it's better than the first Ace Ventura movie. I gave that one thumbs down, but I thought it was richer and had more incident and more characters and more plot and more stuff in it than this one, which seems real thin, as if they were really depending on Jim Carrey to save the day.
Well, there isn't a whole lot here.
No.
But, I mean, he has this story that he goes out and, I mean, it's all the recycled African tribal stuff, and you've seen it all before.
You sure have, and you're tired of it, too. When we come back, Emma Thompson stars in Carrington, the story of a British painter who fell in love in a very unconventional way.
Who on earth is that ravishing boy?
Carrington.
That's an early scene from Carrington, a subtle and unusual love story about the lifelong romance between Dora Carrington, an early 20th century British artist, and Lytton Strachey, an acerbic writer and critic who loved her too, even though he was a homosexual. Although both took other lovers, they shared the same house together for many years as their partners came and went. But at first, Dora thought she hated Strachey.
Don't! Stop it! Would you mind not?
Sorry.
That is Jonathan Pryce there, and a brilliant performance as the dry, reserved, shy Strachey, and Emma Thompson as the tomboyish Dora Carrington.
I'm sorry, I tend to be rather impulsive in these matters. Like the time I asked Virginia Woolf to marry me.
She turned you down?
No. No, she accepted. It was ghastly.
During the First World War, Carrington meets an Army officer named Rex Partridge, and after the Allied victory, they celebrate. He's played by Stephen Waddington.
I must say, to look at him, you wouldn't think he could have written that book.
Why not?
I read it the other day. Couldn't see what all the fuss was about.
Before long, Partridge has become the friend and lover of both Carrington and Strachey.
And my real name is Reginald.
Oh. Myself, I'm very much in favor of Rafe. Rafe Partridge. Rafe Partridge. Sounds very fine, don't you agree?
Sometimes a movie is able to find a single shot that sums up its entire universe, and Carrington has a shot like that, as Dora Carrington sits on the lawn of their house and looks through the lighted windows to watch both of the men she loves with their other lovers. And yet, this is not a movie about sex. It's about a deep and lifelong meeting of the minds between Strachey and Carrington, who was devastated after he died. In a way, it resembles The Remains of the Day, which also showed Emma Thompson in love with an emotionally unavailable man. But because this movie is set in the glittering and intellectual world of the Bloomsbury Group, its characters are much more aware of themselves and of their motives.
And that also accounts for the way the film has been constructed, written and directed by Christopher Hampton. Sometimes in stories where there's going to be unrequited love, in American films, sometimes you'll see everything point. Every stop along the way of the screenplay points to them either liking each other an amount or unliking, you know, something like that. Here, you're dealing with characters that are so intelligent that you can, once you establish their attraction, these two actors can communicate enough so that you can tell us about Carrington, tell us about Strachey, give them their whole personalities, and let us fill in the moments. We are watching, we're constantly flipping back between them, and we know the gradations of feeling they're having. It's a different kind of love story.
And if you're going to say it's a meeting of the minds, then you better put minds on the screen that seem to be entertaining when they meet, and these two do. The dialogue, some of it taken from life, lets you understand why the two of them were fascinated just to be talking to each other for 25 years.
And here's another thing. Jonathan Pryce, I thought maybe had tossed away his film career by doing the car commercials, you know, for Infinity.
Nobody will ever recognize him in this movie.
Here again, I think he pulls it back, and he says, he declares himself really as a major actor.
Yes, he does.
Once again, it's a terrific performance. Coming up next, the tortured relationship between two of France's greatest poets. Total Eclipse is next.
This holiday season,
It's showtime!
turn on your imagination.
That's using the old noodle.
When toys come to life.
Boo, boo, boo!
Walt Disney Pictures presents the first ever computer animated feature film.
Code Red, we are Code Red.
To infinity and beyond. Toy Story. Rated G. Starts Wednesday, November 22nd.
Are typically not as neatly edited or as disciplined as their work, and that is certainly true in the case of the often brutal love relationship between 19th century French poets Arthur Rimbaud and Paul Verlaine in Total Eclipse, the new film from world-class filmmaker Agnieszka Holland, who made Europa, and more recently, The Secret Garden. Although Rimbaud, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is 10 years younger than the married Verlaine, David Thewlis from Naked, he becomes the dominant partner in a passionate yet often cruel relationship.
Self-interest exists. Attachment based on personal gain exists. Complacency exists. But not love. Love has to be reinvented.
Rimbaud becomes the enfant terrible of French artistic circles, and Verlaine often has to apologize for him. And indeed, a little of his behavior goes a long way with us, too.
Reading his poems or singing his songs.
And you think you could invent a machine like that, which worked?
For Christ's sake, here. Why not?
He's about to start reading.
Verlaine has a serious drinking problem, and together with Rimbaud's aggression, it's a recipe for self-destruction.
I bought a gun.
What for?
For you, for me, for everybody.
Hope you bought plenty of ammunition.
Even though I admire the daring of this production, I think the balance of the story is off, tilted in favor of showing their extreme behavior instead of their poetry. We care about these men because of their words, not because of their private lives. Total Eclipse is, however, a strong drama. I do recommend it, but I don't think it's the film every one of the big talents here involved would like it to be.
I don't either, and in fact, I don't recommend it, unfortunately. I think it's kind of a coincidence that Christopher Hampton, who wrote and directed Carrington, wrote this movie.
Right.
And so we have two movies that take place more or less, well, this one takes place a little bit before the other one, but involving homosexuality, cruelty, strange relationships, literature and the arts, and so forth. And Carrington is ever so much more successful.
Carrington is a better film.
Trying to figure that out, and I thought, am I being swayed here by the fact that Verlaine and Rimbaud are so intensely unlikable? I thought both of them were, you know, neck and neck in the obnoxiousness sweepstakes throughout this movie, and I didn't care really what happened to either one of them, as long as they didn't sit down and try to talk to me.
All right, well, I said that's what pushes you away from the table. At the same time, I think you do sense that in some of if you pay attention to Rimbaud as played by DiCaprio.
Oh, he's an interesting actor, yes.
If you pay attention to the character he's playing, you see that he is trying to jumpstart a generation, and you do feel that very much.
I don't think he's trying to jumpstart a generation. I think he is such a pest. He makes life miserable for Verlaine, who is such a flawed and weak character anyway. Right. And after 10 years of this torture, you want to say, enough already. I mean, if Verlaine is enough of a sap to take it, how come Rimbaud isn't tired of dishing it out?
All right, when we come back, our video pick of the week, a cult movie with a shocking final scene that didn't make it into theaters.
Siskel and Ebert's Video Pick of the Week, brought to you by Orville Redenbacher's Gourmet Popping Corn, the best part of the movies.
Our video pick this week is the special edition of the movie Clerks. The movie is about the day in the life of a guy who works behind the counter of a convenience store, and it was a big hit last year on the indie film circuit. Now the movie is out on tape and disc, and the disc version includes the movie's original ending. Since the ending was not used in the movie, it was taken out before the movie was released. I don't think we're giving anything away by showing it here.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're closed.
That's right, the central character, Dante, played by Brian O'Halloran, is shot dead in a holdup, and the original version of the movie ended with him sprawled behind the counter of his store. A viewer named Dominic Armato from Burbank, California, wrote me asking, how would the movie have been received if Kevin Smith had kept this original downbeat ending? And I think the movie probably wouldn't have worked as well with an ending that was arbitrary and unnecessarily sad after the comedy that went before. Young filmmakers like Smith are often tempted by notes of existential doom, but basically, I'm happy that he decided to spare Dante. What do you think?
I know where that impulse comes from, to run a whipsaw the audience around, but I think that you would need to prepare. There'd have to be a longer sequence, a much longer sequence, where suddenly you get some sense that this might happen for it to work. As shot, it wouldn't work at all.
Okay, let's take another look at the movies we reviewed this week. 2 very enthusiastic thumbs up for The American President, Rob Reiner's heartwarming and very smart, very funny story about romance in the White House. It opens nationwide next week. 2 more thumbs up for Kicking and Screaming, the bittersweet comedy about a group of college friends who are reluctant to call it quits after graduation day. 2 thumbs down for Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls, which seems thin compared to the first Ace Ventura film, at least to me, and depends too much on Jim Carrey's elastic performance instead of coming up with more inspiration in the script. 2 thumbs up for The Literate Carrington, with its lifelong platonic love affair. And finally, a split vote on Total Eclipse, the story of the violent relationship between the 19th century poets Paul Verlaine and Arthur Rimbaud. I thought the movie never overcame the unpleasant and obnoxious personalities of the key characters. Gene had some problems with the movie too, but thought it was interesting.
That's it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with reviews of more new movies, including the return of 007 in GoldenEye, with Pierce Brosnan as the new James Bond, and Jack Nicholson as a father obsessed with revenge in The Crossing Guard. And until then, the balcony is closed.